One thing that I don't think we talk about enough, and what I want to share here, is the expectation compounded on that of us to pretend or act or display as if we do have a good relationship with our parents. And this was illustrated to me recently because as I was sharing about my dad's condition, he's deteriorating pretty quickly, and we don't know how long he's going to be around. And in saying that, I know that for some of you, the first reaction is, oh no, and, thoughts and prayers, and, Nicole, I'm being with you. And all of that's very kind and received and generous, and God bless your empathetic and compassionate hearts. And that's why we're friends here, because you're so incredible. But I also want to let you know that for some of us who've had parents that weren't so kind, and for some of us who've had parents that may not have the best relationship, or for some of us that had parents that were downright abusive and harmful and that we needed to separate from, and that was probably one of our boldest and bravest moves we've ever made in our entire life to get ourselves safe, we may not feel that way. We may not feel a sense of loss. We may even feel a sense of relief. We may feel or have had to work really hard to feel compassion towards the first people who are responsible to love us, instead harming us. And I just wanted to speak to that twofold. One, if you're like me and you're in that place where you're dealing with the complex feelings of having family relationships that people typically are like, that is always your mother, you need to love her. That is always your father, you need to forgive him. I just want to let you know that I'm kind of in it with you. And just like you, I am dealing with the complexities of the emotions that are associated with that. And I just want to let you know, and hear from me at least, that whatever you feel is valid, and you are entitled and allowed to work through those emotions. And you do not have to respond at somebody else's expectation when they don't have your experiences. And that's critically important to understand, because your relationship and how you reconcile that, how you feel when you sleep at night, is your own. So does that mean that you need to make it all good or forgive? I don't know. I know I'm still working through forgiveness in certain areas. The thing that I've landed on, just being completely honest and candid for me, is, here's a person who caused me a lot of harm in my life and impacted me greatly. And I say this to say that it's also part of what makes it complex with parents is I also have a lot of gratitude towards my dad, which I know sounds bananas, because you're talking about this guy who did this, this, and this. And again, when you read the book, I think you'll understand more, because I go into some specific stories that I'm sure will make some of your jaws drop, like, Nicole, how'd you get here? But, here's someone I still have gratitude for, because he was so tough on me that I was more than prepared for what the world would throw at me. He was so hard on me that I definitely developed a sense and a belief that I could pretty much take anything on, because I had to. I was living in a house of horrors where it was necessary for me to be able to be tough in order to deal with the day-to-day. And you better believe that I had to develop a solid belief system, because I did not have someone who was putting that in me and telling me I could. So as awful as that is, I have gratitude, because, he did help shape me, good or for bad, in a way that allowed me to show up in the world in the way that I have. But I also had to make some very distinct decisions on things I would not replicate, and that I wanted to be, used by God to be a force for good. My dad isn't a Christian, and I don't say that for anyone who's listening who's not a Christian to demean it. I'm just putting it into context as someone who is a Christian and believes in, the goodness of God and the value system of tolerance and fairness and, grace and all of these things. I did not grow up in a home where those things were echoed to me by my father, or supported by my father, or even displayed by my father. So saying all of this, for those of you who have complicated relationships with your parents, are often feeling like all the messaging, whether it's through social or through your friends or through your peers or through influencers, is all about family being perfect and respecting and getting in there and fixing and repair. I just want to let you know it is a journey. And if I'm going to be the only person who's going to say it to you, I'm going to let you know, I've got complex relationships too, and I'm still working through that. But more than anything, I want to also applaud you for doing the work day in and day out to not be that. And I'm trying not to get choked up about it, but it's true.